to educate, inform, and empower minority communities in the journey towards financial freedom.
So most people go to public schools, and most people are taught the same types of things in school growing up. And personal finance isn't one of these things, right? So the average person comes out of the education system in the United States without that much knowledge when it comes to personal finance, when it comes to taking care of their own money. So because of this, there's a void that needs to be filled. Schools don't teach personal finance, right? I think we've established that. I think it's well known. If you notice, the average score on that financial literacy survey was 3 out of 6. That's 50%, right? If you're in school taking a test, an exam, and you score 50%, that's not a B, that's not a C, that's not a D, that's an F, right? That's an F, you failed. So the average American right now is failing when it comes to finances, right? We're failing when it comes to financial literacy, which is just kind of hard to imagine, right? But that's the case, and that's the reality. That's the world we live in. So what are people taught in school, right? The average high school curriculum for classes in the U.S. include math, English, science, history, foreign languages, right? You need 4 years of math, usually including algebra, geometry, trigonometry. You need 4 years of English. We're talking about classical literature, drama, writing. Science, you need 3 classes. Biology, chemistry, physics. History, 3 classes, like U.S. history, world history. And foreign languages, right? You may need to take 2 years of another language, whether it be Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, something like that, right? French. So these are the things that are taught. These are the requirements at most schools to graduate high school. But there's nothing about personal finance, right? Every single person who graduates high school needs to know how to take care of their money, right? They're going to be paying bills. They're going to be living on their own. They're going to be learning to manage life. And you need money to go to the grocery store. You need money to pay your bills. You may not need trigonometry. You may not need geometry. You may not need to know about classical literature or, chemistry in order to, survive. But you need to be able to manage your money in order to survive. So this is a huge disservice. This is something that is wrong in our educational system. But it's up to us, right? Now it's up to us to kind of fill in that gap, right? If the schools aren't doing it for us, we have to do it ourselves. And that's where the problem comes. Many of us are too lazy to do it ourselves. Let's be real. We're too lazy. So because of that, we just stumble through and we continue to fail when it comes to our personal finance. So we talked about that financial literacy quiz, that 6-question survey that was being put out. And just to put this out there, right? Over the last few years, I mentioned that we're getting worse as a community when it comes to financial literacy. I'm talking about all of America, right? All people. And here, just a graphic showing that the number of people, the percentage of people that answer 4 or more questions, right? So that's 4 out of 6. That's 66%, right, on a test. That's not even really that great. But the number of people that can do that is on a decline, right? We were going from 42% of people could do that in 2009 to only 34% of people in 2018. And that number is just going to keep going down unless we do something about it. Unfortunately, it seems like Black households are affected more by this, right? We're going to take a look at some numbers right now to look at the differences in income based on ethnicity. So when I say the Black community is affected more by this lack of financial training, just look at this graphic, right? The average white family has a median household income of $72,000. The average Black family has a household income median about $45,000. That's a $27,000 difference per household, right? That's a big gap. And there's a lot of social, economic, historical reasons or things that go into why this is. But the hope is to bridge this gap, right? The hope is to make it so it's equal across the board, that there's not such a big divide, there's not such a big gap between people based on race. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing this, is that we want us to start getting more in tune with personal finance so that we can help ourselves to kind of bridge this gap. And that's the goal, right? And these numbers are from the U.S. Census Bureau. So these are things that are recorded and documented, for everyone to be aware of. So the crazy thing to me is in this country, in America, over the years, over the last decade, talking about that study we looked at just recently, people are becoming more and more financially illiterate. That's wild to me, right? Like we're growing, we're progressing as a country, but people are becoming worse or getting worse when it comes to money and just knowledge about money. So there's something wrong there, right? There's something that is just a miss. So when it comes to money, the takeaway, the thing that I really am trying to hit home for you is that it's self-taught, right? It's something that you have to teach yourself or you have to teach those that are around you because the school systems aren't doing it, right? So you have to learn, you have to do it yourself. And if not, you're going to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again that your parents made, that your uncles made, that your aunts made. And that keeps us in that same state as a community. So I have 2 takeaways for you guys today.
It's time for the key takeaway.
All right, so now normally after everything that we've talked about, I give you one thing to take home with you, one actionable item to do, because we don't want to just sit here, talk, listen, and then do nothing, right? It's all about action. So normally I'll give you one thing. Today, first episode, I'll give you 2. All right, so the first one is that we just talked about how personal finance is self-taught, it's home-taught, right? Wealthy people, they teach their kids at home about money. Poor people normally don't. And that's the big difference, right? So what I want you to do today, something that you learned, something that you came across, share it. You know, text your brother, text your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your mom, your dad, your daughter, your son. Like, send someone a message about, you know, that you care about just money management, just something that you learn, something that you think is important or valuable. And hopefully we'll start that conversation, right? Because if you don't talk about it, if you don't learn about it, if you don't engage yourself in it, you're lost, right? There's no growth. There's nothing that's gonna come from that. So that's number one. That's really simple. It's something I just want you to share it with share something with somebody else, right? You can even share this video. Again, like, subscribe. I'd appreciate that. And your number 2 takeaway, I want you to go on this website. The link is right here down below. And I want you to take this financial literacy quiz. It's 6 questions, really simple. I mean, not all the questions are simple, but there's 6 questions, right? Take the quiz, see what you get. Because again, if you score well, that's a great starting point for you. You know that you have some foundation that you can build on. If you don't score so well, that's not bad, right? It just means that there's a lot to learn. And for most of us, there's a lot to learn. So good or bad, whether you score highly or not, there's growth, right? We're looking for growth. We're looking for personal growth when it comes to our finances. So do those 2 things, and I'll see you next time. Let's grow together.